It's on.
All right, brother.
All right, we're on. This is my water up top?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, excuse me a second. I know my wife always yelled at me for doing that. But my hands, between arthritis, neuropathy, and now MS, I'm losing, especially this. Actually, I was supposed to have a surgery on this wrist last week, but they had to cancel it because my oxygen level was funny. So I'm waiting to get it scheduled so that I maybe can get a little more strength in it. But well, I'm glad to be here. I'm back. How many of you were here when I was here before? A couple of you recognize me. The rest of you are trying to forget me. Okay? Listen, a lot of things have happened. I believe, did my wife do a chalk art when she was here? Yeah, that's what I thought. I remember dragging it down the ramp. Her unit. That is a lot of changes in our ministry, both good and bad. Okay? Start with the bad first, is the fact that in the last 2 years, my wife had a stroke. Valentine's Day in 21. And basically she had to do some heart surgery. That year they had to amputate one of her toes because of infection in the bones. Then the next year they had to do again. But the real problem was in the results of all this. She ended up getting dementia. And the Lord took her home on Christmas morning, last Christmas. And, but I always say, I didn't lose her. I know where she's at. It's just that I have to cope now without her. And I'm learning. One of the things that I have to learn is to remember the sign-up sheet for our email or a prayer letter, either email or regular mail. Okay? If some of you may get it, I don't know. If you don't get it, there's a paper up here. I'm sorry it's not the fancy form, but there's a paper up there. You may get it. Sign up with your email or with your, snail mail if you don't have email. But please sign up so you can keep abreast of what's going on. The ministry is not just about me. It was never about just us. It was about the men, women serving the Lord in other countries. In Kenya, we've worked in the Caribbean. We've helped schools, colleges in India. And I'll talk more about that. But our main focus is in East Africa. Now, our base is located up in Brookfield. Okay, 44 minutes from here, according to Google Maps. Okay, unless you get behind a slow truck like I did. No, but I apologize if I have to pause for that because fortunately this wasn't scheduled for last week because I woke up and couldn't talk at all. Now I still have some of it. Even Friday, I had to cancel classes and an appointment because I could barely talk. And I don't know why it would happen. Started like that. Now I know some of it's sinus and problems. So I have to, constantly keep it wet so I can keep talking. When I run out, we're done. Okay, we'll do that. No. Someone said they had to work at 2 o'clock. So we'll finish that by then. Actually, we'll finish before then. You want to get something to eat. All right, but please sign up. Prayer letter. Okay? One other change that happened is the fact that over the course, I was interim pastor at Grace Baptist up in Geneva, okay? And then I'd go out at different times in churches. And of course, I'd be back and forth to East Africa. And we were interim pastor for a few years, about 5 years. And then we resigned there to go out full time. That was in February 2020. Okay? The first church, canceled. COVID. After that, I gave up. Okay, so we didn't get out. I planned on getting out in 21, and then my wife had the stroke. And I've spent the last 2 years caring for her, getting up to teach for Kenya, and working, collecting items to ship over there, and I'll talk more about all that later. But through it all, my arthritis has got worse. Actually, since '09, okay, they're going to have to fuse the wrist now. From this injury I had, they're going to fuse it. That will be my 25th surgery since '09. So, and they're talking about a couple more. So, but you know what? I can keep going on this thing. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ, who strengtheneth me. And it's not my strength, it's his. Just like I'm going to start now with, this is not my ministry, this is his. Now, I will be getting prayer cards. I apologize. I ran out, and we were waiting after COVID to get new ones, and of course, then my wife had the stroke. So I'm hoping to get prayer cards made up in a few months here, and I'll send you some, okay? They are perfect. If you have rats in the basement, stick one down there. It scares them right away, all right? So you can use it. Now, I couldn't do that with my wife, though, on it. It didn't work because she canceled out me, okay? And the rats just stayed there and enjoyed the picture, okay, of her, okay? I have found that they chewed me off, but kept her. But anyways, it's hard. She was a big part of our ministry. And, but then also, I should mention too, and I apologize, one of the reasons I was late, my daughter went in the hospital yesterday, emergency room, and she has 5 children over there. She lives just almost in Boardman, south side of Youngstown. And she went in, we thought, okay, 3 hours, maybe 4. So I went over in the afternoon, and she didn't call. Probably around 7 o'clock, she called and said, I'll be another hour probably, because my heart rate's up, and you know, they're giving her IVs, and but then she calls later and says, they're going to keep me overnight. So she's in the hospital up in Boardman, and we should pray for her. She lost a baby earlier this week, and then there's complications from that. And that was her 6th miscarriage. So, but she has 5 children. That's who I was staying with last night. So we now have 16 grandchildren. Okay, 8 of them are here with me. Diane has 8 now with her in heaven. So we, praise the Lord for the ones we have here. And I think I prayed because there were certain times I was ready to give up and just give it all up. And I said, Lord, and I almost died several times. My wife as well before. But I said, the Lord is keeping me on my feet, going. By the way, one doctor told me in 2000, I'd have 10 years, I'd be in a wheelchair. In 2015, a doctor gave me 3 years. So, and last year, they told me I need to get a big walker. Okay? I said, why? They said, no way. I can't carry anything if I'm pushing a walker. They said, well, get a bag. I said, no. As soon as I get on a walker, you start going downhill. That's why I refuse to not go down steps and up. They tell me don't. I said, no, because I'm going to do it. All right, one thing I've told another church. MS does not control my life. Arthritis does not control my life. The Lord controls my life. And I will seek his. And that's why I'm here this morning. In spite of not getting home and in bed till 2 o'clock this morning, but like I told Pastor, I was used to it. I mean, I drive all night and then get up and preach after a half-hour nap. I've done that. That was about 30 years ago, maybe 40 now, okay? But the Lord is good. It is through his strength, his power. I'm standing before you for 2 reasons. I prayed, Lord, help me to see my grandkids grow up. trust you and serve you. I mean, they're really involved in our church now. In fact, last night, they were crying because they couldn't go to church. Couldn't go to Sunday school the next day. Because their mom wasn't coming home to take them. I mean, they really were, you know. And by the way, the oldest is 9, youngest is 3. Okay, in that family. So we, in another prayer I prayed, Lord, I've got work to do in Kenya. Okay? And Diane did too. But the Lord took her on Christmas and always said that's the worst time to lose someone. The worst time. I always felt special bad when someone lost someone on a holiday or around a birthday. But you know what? On Christmas, the Lord was there. His presence, his peace. I went over my daughters for a while. Then I went home. The next day, I spent most of the day praying and reading scriptures. And the Lord simply said, Tom, that chapter's done. That chapter's done. That work is done. Diane now has work in heaven. And by the way, if you want to find her in heaven, she'll probably be in the kitchen helping the angels prepare the marriage supper. You know, she's doing that. Or my daughter's couple friends of ours that she used to sew with and do crafts with. You know, they said she's got a craft circle going or sewing. I said, I'm going to get up there, be the only one with an embroidered robe. So, but no, the Lord said, I've got work for her to do in heaven. Now, you have a new chapter, and it's something you have to do. You couldn't do it without her. You couldn't do it. I'm excited about the new chapter. And the Lord just said, yeah, Diane's gone. Because there's now the national depends on what part of Africa they're from. They love that, and they love Golden Corral. Every time they come, can we go to Golden Corral? Okay, I'll meet you at Golden Corral. But anyways, I had them there for pizza, and we're talking, and we had planned a mission trip to Grenada. That was I won't say our first, okay, but the first to Grenada. And because we'd been to, England, we'd been to Jamaica. Now but I was still pastoring. And I was telling him, and I was preaching on this, but then he came. So I said, I'll preach that next week. I've been studying this chapter. And this chapter, if you look, is not about fish. Okay? Everybody says, this is a miracle of the fish. No, it's not. It is never a miracle when nature obeys God. They do it. Jesus should do it. The miracle is when we obey God. Okay? That's a miracle. And that takes a miracle because of our nature. And notice, without going into details, Jesus takes Peter, very impulsive, okay, Peter, and they take him, and he uses his boat to preach. When he's done preaching, he says, go out to the deep. Now, Peter had fished all night long, caught nothing. Peter was tired. He was hungry. He didn't have sushi to eat even, because he caught nothing. He was tired, hungry, discouraged. He just wanted to go home, go to bed. Maybe Mrs. Peter had something for him to eat. But, well, here's what happened. Jesus says, go out to the deep. What? It's the middle of the day. It's hot. You don't fish during the day in the middle of the day. The fish are way down, and you're not going to catch them. You know, they're nets, aren't that? But Jesus says, cast out your net. Now, here is the miracle. Peter did not throw Jesus out of the boat. Remember, Peter, very impulsive. Oh, Lord, I'm going to die for you. And he cuts off this servant's ear. Very impulsive. But I love Peter. He gets a bum rap. I got another sermon I preach when I have Sunday school in church about him walking on water. Lord, call me. If it's you, call me. He's willing to do. Here, he's not. Except, you know, like I said, it's a miracle he didn't come out earth telling a fisherman how to fish. That's dangerous, okay? Yeah, I got two son-in-laws that love fishing. I don't tell them anything. I don't tell them anything. In fact, last week I was supposed to go on a boat with my one. They both have boats. And I was going to go fishing with him last week, and I got sick. I said, I can't be out on that water, you know, and I got to get this cleared up. So what does he do? He goes fishing. But if I went with him, I wouldn't tell him what bait to use or where. But here's Jesus telling him, all right, Peter, cast him out. Cast out there. And here's the miracle. Peter says, Lord, we've fished all night long, but nevertheless, at thy word, I'll cast out the net. Man, you know what? Jesus tells us we got nets to cast out. Jesus tells us we have, because later Peter will become a fisher of men. We have people that you need to be witnessing to. The other day I ran into a young man. He'd been on drugs, got off drugs, alcoholic, then he left it. I mean, he was really messed up. Tattoos all over, and he had went and got an associate degree, in philosophy. That was his religion. And I know he got from Youngstown State, so it had no Christianity in it. No Bible. He said, I know the religions and all. Well, I gave him a tract. I said, will you take this and read it? Sure, I love studying thought. But then we got interrupted. And then he left. I didn't get to tell him. I said, listen, this isn't a religion or a philosophy. It's a person. Jesus Christ. I didn't plan on being there. And I was going to be there, except my daughter had to go to the emergency room. So I had to go, this was Thursday. So I had to go and watch the kids because the husband was at work. So I watched the kids. I was going there anyway, but I had to flip-flop them. I would never have met that man on my time schedule. I would never have been able to give him a track because he talked about different things that help, counseling, meditation. I've tried them all, he says. I said, well, I don't worry about them. I've got Jesus. That's what keeps me calm. That's what keeps me empowered. It's Jesus. I would never have been able to witness, plant that seed if I had been not on my time. Here's Peter in the boat. He wanted fish on his time. He's hungry. He's tired. He's discouraged. And now I'm going to throw out and pull in an empty net again. And I just washed them. They were washing their nets. They were already packed up. Now I'm going to have to wash them again. It's going to be more work. By the way, doesn't that sound? No, I won't ask Pastor. Because somebody probably told him, oh, we already tried that before. Or that's going to make more work for us. You know, you know what? There's one question we have to ask. What's Jesus tell us to do? Many times we fail because we do things without him. We need to put God first. And not the kingdom is in a place or time. The kingdom is within us. We are part of the kingdom. The eternal kingdom. Not the millennial kingdom. That's for the Jews. We're part of a kingdom. And we need to be doing it. And reaching people. Helping them. Comforting them. Last night, I'm worried. I said, am I going to be able to make it tomorrow? I said, Lord, I got to put you first. But my daughter needs me. My grandchildren need me. My son-in-law needs me. I said, well, you know what? This is my ministry as well. When I had to take care of Diane, at the end, we had to spoon feed her water. She was so helpless. In fact, Christmas morning, I was giving her water. I had to remind her to swallow. I was about ready to call hospice again because she was on hospice. And, you know, I was just thinking, that was hard. That a lot of husbands don't get to do. When their wives pass, it's sudden or they have to go to a nursing home and somebody else. But I took care of her. I had help from the is out there on the hot day, throwing the net over, having to do more work, doing something he already tried before. She says, just do it. He throws it out, and the nets are so full they can't pick them up. The nets are so full that they're struggling to get it in. That's when we come to verse 7, up there on the slide. Pastor, the pastor from Ghana, my mind just went blank on his name. He's with the Lord now. That's why his name's been off my mind for a while. But the pastor, he says, looked at me and says, come over to Ghana and help us. The Lord I've not been in Ghana yet, or Togo, both places. I've had pleas all over to go. But the Lord called me to Kenya, then Uganda. And we want to work farther. And they called unto their partners, which were in the other ship, that they should come and help them. You know what? That's what Africa was calling. That's what pastors in the Caribbean, South America, Asia, even some parts of Europe, they're calling. said, help us. I got an email from a man that works in India. They're trying to put together a container. They said, we need books for the theological schools. Can you give us some? I said, well, I'm preparing a container for Kenya, but yeah, I'll give you. Because I got plenty, and I'll have a full container for Kenya as well, but I still need more. You see, they're throwing out nets. They're starting churches with our school, the various pastors we have. A number of them they're pastoring and starting another church. They're trying to spread their nets out. They're spreading because God told them to. And they say, at your word, Lord, I'm going to do it. You know what? We are the partners in your ship. The Lord has provided us with so much knowledge. I heard one of the men talking about, well, they could teach or preach. They have it. Yes. Some of you have more Bible training than the pastors in Kenya and Uganda. And some of them have degrees. Some of them do. But a lot of them don't. First year I was there in Kenya, I had a man, during a break come up and say, well, I got to get these verses down, that you were talking about. I didn't get them down, okay? And I told him what they were, okay? And he said, I got to have this so I can teach Sunday school. By the way, I should mention, he didn't even have a Bible. In fact, in the first conference we had 40 pastors, or 40 churches, okay, there. Of those 40 churches, one day I asked, who has a Bible? Raise it up. We counted it. We had 200 people, over 200 people in the conference. There were 40 Bibles. The rest of them were Sunday school teachers, youth pastors, etc. That's one Bible per church. Would you like that, Pastor? How do you tell them, read the Bible? We don't have one. Okay? And so, but they're throwing out the nets. Starting churches. We're throwing out the net with our school. And I got to get going here. We'll never get through the pictures. Hey, that's the problem. I get preaching when I'm teaching. I get started preaching. I don't get to my notes. Sorry, I got preaching there. One of them said, that's okay, because now I can preach that. Hey, it's God's word, not mine. Take and use it. All right, they're throwing out their nets. Look at men there, prepare to look on the nets. Those pictures down by the Indian Ocean. And they're taking and doing the nets. There's a picture of Kenya. Is there a button on? Is there a? Yeah, I mean, pointer.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that one, okay. I probably just didn't push it hard enough. No? There it is. It won't show up on the screen. TV, television. It does on projected, but not television. All right. But anyways, there's Kenya. And you, okay, I can just walk over here, point out. We have churches. Down here, Kilifi. And by the way, down here, people are dying every day. Starvation. There's a famine. And prices. You think our inflation is bad? Theirs is worse. Theirs is even worse. Okay? Mombasa, Kilifi, churches here. Churches up through, up in this area. Nairobi, up through Eldoret. Kitale, Kisumu, Kisii, on into their Bali is the main town. Uganda. All these up here, desert. People are dying every day because there's a famine and they die of starvation. Up there in Lodwar, and I'll talk more about them. But those are the places we work. Over 200 churches in Kenya and Uganda that we try to help. 200 churches. I think 14, well, it might be 15 now, Christian schools, primary schools, up through, well, it'd be 8th grade. And a Christian high school. Actually, 2 Christian high schools. Okay, plus, now what we're up to, 4 Bible colleges. I think there's 4 Bible colleges in different areas that we work with, plus our internet school. Okay? The field's wild. They're throwing out the nets. Then they ask you, you're their partner. Help us. Help us. This is downtown Nairobi. Hey, modern city. Sometimes I think I'm in New York City, except the buildings aren't as tall. Okay, but I'm in large, yes. A few tall buildings, and then look at beautiful, some beautiful architecture. Okay, they have it. Then you have the churches. This church is in the middle of nowhere. When they first took me there, I got out of the car, I looked around. There's a marketplace down below, which is empty, only certain days. And I looked, I couldn't even see a house. Okay? But that church, okay, you see the size. It was built by a church up in Sharpsville, PA. Sent them the money to build it. Look at it. It's full of people on Sunday mornings. They have Christian school. That's the building to the right. I'm sorry. That's where the orphans live, the red building. In the back, they have a Christian school. And they have a high school. It's in the middle of nowhere. And they got that full. I've been there. They've had almost 200 people. And they come. They walk for miles, some of them. I was in one. There's a young boy that walked almost an hour to get to church by himself, and he brings his little brother or sister, I forget which. His parents weren't saved. And one day, I'm there, and you got questions? Yeah. He asked me a question. Do people in the U.S. love Jesus? Here's a boy who walked, I think, if I remember right, 3 kilometers. 3 kilometers. That's about a mile and 3/4, something like that. And he walked. I was in a church in West Virginia. They had built a new building a little farther up. And they had 2 parking lots. And the pastor was trying to get the people park in the lower and walk up to the church and save the upper for the elderly and handicapped. And he says he couldn't get the people doing it. I said, listen, this young boy walked 3 kilometers to church because he loved Jesus. Do you love Jesus enough to park in a lower parking lot and walk up? Do you love Jesus enough to do his will? How much do we love him? Look at what your life and what you do. How much time you spend with him. How much time you work. These people are doing it. By the way, that church ran through a scandal. They had to dismiss a pastor because he had accosted one of the orphan children. He had accosted one of the orphan girls. And she went to the headmaster of the school and told him what happened. They voted him out. Can you imagine that happening to a church? The church dies here, right? But that church is growing. Someone's got 5 pastors now. 5 pastor senior and assistant and a youth pastor and they're growing. That church is now packed. They are just intent, not dwelling on the problems of the past. Well, we did it and it failed. No, he went on. They threw out more nets. Okay, got to watch my time. We try to help them. Number 1, we provide training to local church leaders. We're trying to make a difference. Okay, I love the verse in Jude. Of some have compassion, making a difference. We just want to make a difference. So we have these conferences for all church leaders, including the janitors. Could you imagine up in Lodowa? They have a grass church made out of grass, dirt floor, and they sweep out the floor every Sunday, before Sunday. They have a janitress. I met her. Her job was to clean the church. And she'd sweep it out. Make sure, so you walked in, there was nothing that shouldn't be there on the floor. By the way, if you're a deacon in the churches, some of the churches, when they don't have the permanent buildings, they have a mud, okay? They make it out of mud, and there's dirt floor. All right, who's deacons here? All right, you know what your job would be? Every so often get cow manure and spread it on the floor. It keeps the chiggers out. That way when the people are there, they can't stand still. Or in their pinging, okay? They can't stand still. Back and forth, swaying, walking back and forth. Well, that calls the chiggers up. That's why you put the manure down. I was in one church. Well, no, let's move on. I'll show you. Oh, no, I don't have a picture of that one. I got the new one. All right. Here are some of the conferences that we've had. Notice a small one in the bottom left. That building, now they're out of that now. All right? Look how skinny and long it is. And when it rained, the roof leaked. So they only had half the size. Sometimes when they fill it up on some, it's all full, people are standing outside. In fact, I've been in one church. Let me go on. Okay. All right. There's some others. Victory Baptist I showed you. Maroki Baptist, that church is no longer there. One day, after some rains, it collapsed. Okay, so they have to build another one. Haruma Baptist, which is that's one of the larger churches that we work with. There in Haruma. That's the beginning church. Pastor Wilson started that church. All right? Today, he has over 100. Because he said, I've got to reach Kenya, Uganda. That's churches in Kenya, Uganda. One up in Ethiopia. One in the Congo that they don't know where it's at now because of the unrest. They haven't heard from the pastor. They don't know if he's alive or dead. Okay? Then some in Rwanda and Burundi. And now there's a group down in Tanzania that they might start a church. And they started Bible school close to Tanzania. Okay? And by the way, then Chirangi, down there on the bottom left, I preached in that mud church. It was smaller than your section of pews here. Okay? Packed full. People were standing outside. I'm preaching, my back's against the wall. And there's a little table in front of me. And I'm preaching. When the choir's saying, they don't go up front. They just stand because there's no front. Okay? I'm up there, I'm preaching. And my back, and that's not just the only church I've had to do that, because it was so full. It's a mile, it's an hour from Haruma Baptist. They were down to 2 people. 2 elderly ladies and the pastor. And that pastor's a rascal. You know what he did? He died on them. He died. So there was just 2 ladies. A young man from Haruma Baptist Church said the Lord called him, and he went up there to every Sunday, 1 hour each way to get to the church. That church is full. They've actually built it and doubled the size. They added on. It takes him an hour to get to church. Pastor, how long does it take you to get to church? 30 seconds. Well, I'll tell you what, when I was in Geneva, it was an hour to get up there. A couple minutes over an hour. And I'm back and forth every Sunday. I know what it was like. No, but they're throwing out the nets. And they say, come and help us. All right, moving on real quick. All right, there's some of the church conferences. The top one, okay, is in the Mathari slum. So dangerous, the policemen do not go in after dark. Because they'll lose their head, literally. they'll have their head cut off by the gangs. The pastor's there. He's had his house broke into. Actually, we lost a generator, had to replace it. But Gospel Baptist there, Pastor John, who also heads up, now that his father just passed last year, whoops, he heads up, Gospel Baptist Association with about 15, 16 churches, and they started a new one. That church in the slum. Kibera slum, that's one of two churches. The other church is in a tent. Well, they may have built it by now. But Kibera slum is the largest slum in Africa. Second largest in the world. The one where Mother Teresa worked at in India is the largest. Can you imagine that? Thousands of people in just a few acres. Oh, what is a slum? All right. You're on a garden, pretty much. Okay? And you have just mud buildings or steel roofs or wood. Okay, depends what. Okay, no facilities. The electric they get in there, basically a lot of it's bootleg. They, tie in the wires and bring it in themselves. It's terrible conditions. All right, moving on. We also work with children. In fact, Pastor Wilson told me he has a lot of Americans that come. We're the only ones that work with children. Some of them will do something little with them. But we would go in, that's where I miss Diane. Okay, crafts. Even if she didn't go with me that trip, she sent crafts with me. Okay, she did it. Now I got a big bunch of craft material I don't know what to do with. Okay, but yeah, and orphans, Christian schools, even government. Actually, the bottom right is a government school. Legal classes in their schools. Except for the Muslim, they have a Quran class. Everybody else must be in Bible class. We have one ministry, this is some of the orphanages. One ministry has 244. Only half of them support it. Others, have smaller amounts. That's the largest, Pastor Wilson's. So we want to reach youth. We're collecting sports equipment. We really need more basketball, soccer. We got lots of baseball equipment. But we need volleyball, soccer, basketball. We need some nets, a few more hoops, a lot of others, stuff that we're sending. But, we set out these containers, and thank you because you supplied some, on one container you supplied some Sunday school materials that the church donated to us. But we collect books. We really need, especially books that are like Greek and Hebrew, yes. Some of them, in fact, one of our students is enrolled in college in the U.S. through the internet. And they let him go free. And he's, taking Greek and Hebrew, and we're hoping that then he can teach some of the other pastors. We need Bibles to pass out, especially study Bibles for the pastor, Sunday school materials, shoes for the orphans. So many of them, and I hear, they go without shoes and they get chiggers. I was there once where they pulled out of one boy 50 chiggers, something like 50-some chiggers, out of 1 foot. And the next day they had to come back and do the other. Because they run around without shoes, they don't have them. So we collect and we're going to send shoes, school supplies. I should have up there medical supplies. We don't take medicine, but bandages, slings, stuff like that. Okay? We need, especially right now, the container we're going, I need cassette tape players, CD players, VCR players, DVD players. You say, who has one? Look in the attics. Look in the closets. Okay? We need ones that work. Look at yard sales. All right, we don't want any 8-track, okay? But I have a lot of teaching material on those media. Excellent teaching material. I have pastor sermons. I have music. I have school videos. Teaching science. And I've got the Moody Science series. Remember that? Some of us older ones might know, remember that. I've got all that on VCR. Brand new, never opened. I got all this. We need the players, though, because they don't have them. We need to send it. So we also will need to collect, I should put on there, especially need books that are, how do I want to say? Books can be used. Some books I really need. I need good Christian, like a Becker or Bob Jones. I don't know if anybody homeschools. If you know anyone homeschools, I need the world history, junior high school world history. Because I'm going to be teaching now. I need books on church history, okay, to send over with them. I mean, I'm teaching and they don't have even a textbook. We have we try to find textbooks they can download or read on the internet. Okay, we need that. Okay, we need about $9,000. Now that's going to ship it over there, plus hire trucks to disperse it all the way through Kenya and Uganda. Okay, because they don't have the money to do that. They will also pay customs and all. We're estimating about $9,000 for all that. It might go up, but this is really growing, our Cyber Bible Institute. You see, Hoover Institute of Stanford University reported Chinese government has provided 5,000 scholarships. 5,000 scholarships for African students to go and study in China. Now, it doesn't take a genius to know what they're going to learn. Communism. Okay, so we are taking up the challenge that began this year to reach 500 students in 5 years. That's through our internet school. That is through the Bible schools that we help. Like one of the ones up in Lodwar. And please pray. I'm running out of time to tell you about it. We need it. We need equipment. We did send a generator up to Lodwar, if you remember, up there in the desert. One road that goes up there. Pastor Wilson said, you never travel that road. Your back is so bad, you can't do it. And I've been on some rough roads over there. Actually, I don't complain about our potholes. Our roads have potholes. Their potholes have roads through them. Okay? That's how big they are. And they're rough. Okay? One road I look out and it's about a 300-foot drop. And there's no road I can see. And Wilson's traveling and he's talking on the phone when driving with one hand at that time. But, their roads are tough. Plus, between the south and the north, they have to travel. The last time the pastors just made it back. Okay? There are 500 bandits that have formed a little mob. They took one convoy of 50 vehicles, cars and trucks, and they killed everyone. And they robbed their place. The army's up there now, but the bandits are always ahead of the army. We have a computer for them. I need to raise money that I can pay for Wilson or one of the other pastors to fly the computer up. And that way they can connect to the school in Bugoma. And then from there, they can also, some of them can connect to our school. See, they have Bible colleges, but they're really Bible institutes. But then we're going to work on providing degrees, because the government's cracking down on pastors. They have to have training. And we're afraid someday they're going to say you have to have a degree. Because there's a lot of charlatans there. A lot of corruption in the churches, okay, from these men who call them, hey, they use it to just make money. I'm a pastor, open a church so they can make money. All right? We need computers, generators, and wiring. In fact, I need a computer for the school in Uganda so I can teach them. They want me to teach a class each month. We have generators, wiring. Generators are only like $400. but wiring sometimes gets higher. So that's an estimate. We need screens, such as you have. Okay, some projectors, I should say, as well as screens, because Pastor John in Mathare, he wants me to get a projector, and he'll take the computer projector, throw up a sheet, and show a gospel film out in the village, or out in the areas around the slum. You know, and use that as a witnessing tool. So we need that. We need printers. Okay, that way we can get out there. And we have one printer right now there in Nairobi area. I need a printer up in Buguma that will also help in Uganda. So we need them. We also partner with the colleges, like I said, helping them. This is the Independent Gospel Bible Institute in Matoya, which is the Buguma area. And so that shows you what they, and we want to partner with them. Here's the generator. All right, that computer went bad. So that's why we need to, these are some of the pastors from Lodwar. By the way, the one second from the right, Pastor Wilson. And Pastor Wilson is the man that runs a school. He has like 100 churches. That's the generator we sent for them. Now they got wiring into the church, but they need a new computer. And we've got it there. Okay, but like I said, I got to get airfare because it's too dangerous to travel by land. But they're there. Those are some of the pastors. And I could tell you stories, but that's how it works. There's my notes. That's what they see, and that's what I see. That's in one of the conferences I taught at. That's how we teach. I'm up, by the way, at 2 o'clock in the morning. First class. I'm done by 9. Now I do, this trimester, I'm the only one teaching. We have several others that will teach at different times, but the summer's hard to get pastors to be able to teach. And especially up at 2 o'clock in the morning. But most of them are like the 7 to 9 class. So I get still stuck with the 3 o'clock. But that's fine. It's midnight shift for me. I'll do what the Lord tells me. And I'll do it at His timing. So we need books. All kinds. Because actually we're going to have a book sale. Because I've got library books given to me. From churches, from schools. I have like 3 school libraries. I don't know how many pastor libraries. And there's some books we just aren't appropriate for Kenya. Okay, they don't really want books about American history. A few, they do want a few, but not, 500 American history books. No. We have also other novels and such I'm not sending. So we are collecting books of all kinds. I really need some good Bible dictionaries and concordances and stuff like that. Now, back to Luke. Luke, they beckoned unto their partners, which were in the other ship, that they should come and help. The churches in Africa. And in India, we're getting books. I need some more books for India. For school, library, 4 Bible colleges in India. I've already sent 2 times a bunch of books to India. We've sent to Africa. We've sent to the Caribbean. Actually, we have sent material to every continent except Antarctica. I can't find a missionary or church in Antarctica for some reason. Okay? But we have sent to every continent books, school books, Bible books, other Sunday school material, and so forth. Every continent in the world. And it's not me, it's Christ. We need the money, we need materials, but we also need you. Take a day, 45-minute drive up, and help pack the books. I can't live. In fact, my back partly hurts today because Wednesday I was moving boxes of books. I had 2 men faithfully helping me. 2 men, from up in Bezetta Baptist Church. Every Wednesday, they came and helped. But the Lord took Bill home suddenly about 6 weeks ago now. So I'm down one. So we're only getting half the work done. Because I can't be moving all these boxes. You know, I do when I have to, but I just sort through the books. Tell them, these books go there, this books go India, or, you know, India, Kenya. These are for pastors, these are for children, etc. We can use. Take that, one of you, a couple of you, or a whole group. Come up and help pack. We pack books, we've got a bunch of sports equipment and shoes to pack, because I want to send it out by fall, by this fall. We want to thank you for your support and prayers. Number one, the prayers. It's important that we are uplifted. The challenge, I've only scratched the surface of what they go through. And I forgot to tell you about the church. When they were meeting, they were in a school, no windows, just holes, because the building wasn't complete yet. And across the way was a mosque of Somali refugees. And they have a lot of terrorists with the Somali people, the young men. Terrorist attacks throughout Kenya. It's terrible. I could tell you stories. But, boom, they could come by, throw a grenade in the window. Would you like to go to church with that possibility? Americans would stay home. It's not safe. Kenyans go and trust God. Trust God. Someone asked me once, what's the difference between American churches and African churches? And I didn't know what to tell them. So I asked one of the African pastors, who's been here quite a bit. And he looked at me seriously. He says, you know, the Kenyan pastor, church, the African churches are in a war. And they know it. And they act like it. American churches act like they're on a picnic. That's how African sees us. Because we're not serious in serving God. We're not willing to do the sacrifices. We're not willing to come and help them. We're not willing to throw out our nets. You got nets right here in Salem to throw out. Whatever the Lord tells you to do, you see, you're part of his plan to reach the world for Christ. You have a part, I have a part. The African churches have a part. Churches in India have a part. And we each reach our own mission field, and then we help each other. Because sometimes God enriches us with things that we need to share with our partners. Because let me finish with this. Look in Luke 5, and you're going to see they beckoned, so the partners came, and look at verse 7 in the end. They came and filled both the ships so that they began to sink. You want God's blessing? Partner with African churches. Partner with them. Blessed by God. Always blessed by God. Pastor?
Thank you, brother. That's all right. Reading the text here this morning in Luke, while he was going through and reading down there to verse 7, I can't help but read on to verse number 8, when it says, when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord." The fact of the matter is that after both of the ships began to be filled up, and after that happened, what happened? These men, they couldn't believe what was happening, what was taking place. They couldn't believe what was going on. And we see that they were, and it was never about the fish, just like what Brother Tom said. You can read down there. How do we know that? Because in verse number 11, and when they had brought all their ships back to land, what did they do? They forsook all. They didn't even keep the fish that they got. They walked away from it all. Why? Because it was never about the fish. It was never about the fish. And yet, all the men that were there that day, they were just taken back in disbelief. They could not believe how God worked there. That was the thing to take away. I think that's something that us for a church today, we need to keep in mind. That's us. We cannot believe how much God can actually do. This is real missions here. I love this. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where mission work gets done. God is so good. Thank you, brother, so much for joining us. Here in a moment, we're going to have an altar call, and then after that, we're going to take up a special love offering with our offering there. So if you guys see the love offering envelopes, grab one of those. You fill that out. That'll go to Brother Tom. And for this ministry here, there's no doubt that there's a need there. Amen. We can see that. If nothing else today, I think get ready to have our altar call in this time of prayer. A couple things